Now, hopefully you didn't miss this, but a short while ago, the devs did reveal, quite uncharacteristic for them, a roadmap of upcoming features and additions coming to the game. Now, that was pretty exciting, and on the list was a really cool feature. That's build templates. They did confirm that's a thing coming to the game. Now, over the many years you may have been playing Guild Wars 2, you've probably heard people talking about build templates. People like me have been asking them for a long time and talking vaguely about what might be cool with the game if they were added. A lot of it comes from the fact build templates were in Guild Wars 1, but I realized I haven't properly sit down and talk about what it means for the game, because some of you guys might have a vague concept, but you might not realize just how deep this goes and how wonderful this will really be. I was particularly inspired and excited about it because I've been thinking about builds a lot for an unrelated reason, maybe I'll get to in another video. So yeah, I really distilled this down to 6 points I really want to express to you guys about why this is really cool, and I'm secretly hoping that build templates will be coming sooner rather than later. So let's talk about point number 1 first of all, which you should all understand very well and is probably the extent of what most of you guys think of, and that's this. Point 1, convenience. This is why build templates will be good, because there's a lot of different builds we run in the game now, and a build template will be the ability to take all of our gear, all of our traits, all of our skills, the weapons, everything we have equipped, save it to a template and swap it on and off at any moment. That's just convenient. It means if I'm raiding and on one boss I want to run a condition build, and on the next boss I want to run a burst power build, instead of going into my hero panel like so and then going to my equipment and, you know, reslotting everything or right-clicking on my legendary stuff and changing all the stats if I'm fortunate enough to have spent the time to actually get all my legendary gear and then go into the traits and change everything manually. Instead, I just load that template on, I'm done. You can't really argue with that convenience, and I'd argue that as the years have gone by, as new elite specializations have come into the game and new formats have come into the game, that's become even more important. So one of the main questions I always get asked over the years is, hey WP, what's a good build for engineer, right? We're on an engineer right now. Really, when it comes to Guild Wars 2 now, there's no way to answer that question without knowing several things. Like, okay, are you looking for a fractal build? Are you a player that likes to raid a lot? Are you a player that's looking to play world versus world? Are you looking to play PvP? Are you just doing the main story and running around in the open world like you can see that I'm doing right now? Which of these are you actually interested in? And depending on which answer the player gives, you give a drastically different answer to what kind of build is a good build. Those builds that are good for raiding aren't necessarily going to be good at all for PvP, and people get led astray a lot. There's like a mountain of different things to know about, and that's only increased as the years have gone by, as more elite specs and so on have come in. Even if you were just to answer, hey, I'm a PvEer, just give me a good build for PvE. There's so many different ways to break down PvE and so many different builds you could run within there. Or if you're purely a PvPer, there's loads of different ways that you could play some classes within PvP. And so build templates will allow us to conveniently swap between those, figure out the ones we really like and which ones are most relevant for us, and that's pretty great. Okay, so convenience, I'm not going to labor that point any longer. You probably had a good idea of that before watching the video. But I want to talk about some other things that are going to be really good about build templates too. Point number 2, and that's that this will actually encourage totally new gameplay for people. And why is that? Because now that it's convenient to swap builds and to experiment, and it's not frustrating in terms of messing around with your items all the time, it can encourage people to play and do things that they'd never really do before, because now you can just slot it in. So literally before this video, making this video earlier in the day, I was playing Scrapper and I was looking at running a Juggernaut Scrapper build that combines Juggernaut with mass momentum from the Scrapper line. We had the Shadow Gyro, as I'm making this video, was just very recently buffed. So the idea is you run around with a flamethrower and you use the Shredder Gyro for extra damage, and you just do tons and tons of little packets on people. That was the idea, but I grew bored of it after it wasn't very good at killing the fire elementals near where I'm standing in Path of Fire right now. And when I swapped to Hollow, I kind of lost everything. Once build templates are in the game, I won't have that negative moment where I have to throw everything away. I can just save my flamethrower build, and maybe I didn't like it too much here, but I can go back to it later, and all of a sudden, I'm playing it. Even if it's a little bit suboptimal for a certain thing, I find I'm mixing stuff up, and I'm changing things. You know, if I'm playing through all of the Path of Fire storyline, Maybe for a couple of instances, I'll play a hollow build, and then for a couple of instances, at the click of a button, I'll go play the flamethrower one, which I never would have done before, and that's born out of the convenience. It encouraged the players to learn more about the game, about their classes, and interact with the game on a deeper level, just because that convenience is there now as a baseline. And that is a totally different thing that build templates are actually now offering people, so I think that's pretty fantastic. I know I already mentioned in this video that there's a lot of builds, and optimal builds you would play within the broad categories of the game. Like, you're going to have a fractal build that's very different to your raiding build and your PvP one. But even just within that single category, like if you just look at open world PvE builds, once build templates are in, you can set up tons of stuff for all kinds of fringe things. I can have my for fun Juggernaut build. I can have a hollow build for a little bit more damage maybe in other areas. I can have a build with medkit specifically set up so that when a world boss comes by or I happen upon a large group of people killing a big monster, I can start healing them. I could go really fringe with things. I can have a build loadout just for gathering, right? Maybe I just fancy, I'm one of those players that likes running around in Timberline Falls getting all of the wood or whatever. I can have a build loadout just for that, for whatever character I happen to be on at the time, so that I move really quickly, right? Like a racing build, essentially. I can have a loadout ready for key farming that I quickly load on into any key farmer character maybe that I make. I can have a build that's like so absurdly fringe you'd never think about it under today's Guild Wars 2. Like, I could set up a build that is deliberately set up to max out swiftness uptime on a class that has crazy swiftness application, just to buff noobs as they load into Guild Wars 2 and give them a nice welcome, you know? You could set that up. You could have more useful things that are nonetheless really fringe, like builds specifically for breaking break bars in the Vabi meta, or builds specifically set up for husk blocking at Triple Trouble. And once they're saved, that's it. They're kind of a part of your account, right? The only place that I think that this dimension doesn't really apply to is kind of PvP, because in PvP, because leveling and stuff doesn't matter, you just kind of make new characters on your account that sort of are that anyway. But hey, whereas right now I have 4 different necromancers on my account for 4 different play styles in PvP of necro gameplay, I can have just one and swap between the builds. That kind of goes back to convenience though. So that's point 2, that it encourages totally new stuff you wouldn't have done before. And that's good for, you know, getting people to engage with the game a bit more. Let's go on to point 3. Now, this is the really exciting one that I think most people don't realize at all. I want to talk about cosmetics, okay? So the best way to do this is to log on to one of my many warriors on my account, okay? So let's say this warrior, which I'm currently playing the Living World Season 2 content on, and I think is spec to be a Spellbreaker, but was a Berserker a little bit back. So this warrior here is on a Spellbreaker build that obviously has certain runes going on. I've got strength runes on here. We've got berserker stuff. We might mix in some assassins or whatever. But this is how this warrior looks with this gear set, right? Now, if I want to go to another build, obviously that's going to change the way that my armor looks. So if I go back to character swap now and I show you another one of my warriors, say this one here that I've been PvPing on, you'll see that this guy looks totally different, and his build is largely different, okay? So, as builds shift, we get more meaning out of the various skins we have in the game. Now, why is that important? Because Guild Wars 2 thrives on unlocks and skins, right? The wardrobe is so huge these days, and it is fun transmuting stuff, and it is fun dyeing stuff. The problem the game has right now, though, is once you've found 1 or 2 looks you really like and really care about on your character, that's kind of it. Once you've got, say, a legendary weapon from Generation 1, maybe you don't care about the Generation 2 one or the Generation 3 one or whatever, because you've got that defined outfit and that's kind of how your character goes. It's only when you start having other builds, and meaningful other builds, that suddenly the skin customization starts becoming really fun again, and suddenly you're interested in playing the new expansion content achievements to get specific skins, and now all of a sudden the elite specialization collections are important to you, and now all of a sudden dyes are important to you when they weren't in the past, and so on. So one thing that build templates is going to do, and I really think this is possibly the strongest thing, is if the devs do this right, I mean, it will allow you to not just have build templates, but essentially you're going to be having cosmetic templates. And they could implement it in a way that this doesn't happen, but it totally should. And what it would mean is I might love the way this character looks and think this is amazing, but now I can just at the click of a button have a whole new outfit and a whole new style of how I want my character to look, and I'm suddenly invested in getting legendaries again, and I'm suddenly invested in backpacks again. And what is currently happening with a lot of veteran players is over enough years you will eventually settle on stuff that you really like the look of, and you kind of run out. Once build templates are in, you don't necessarily ever have to run out. That's going to stimulate so many different areas of gameplay and economy. People aren't, I think your average player probably isn't going to have every single warrior build they ever make. You know, let's say they got 6 to 10 of them set up. They're not going to have them all look exactly the same. Probably they'll realize they have an opportunity to have all kinds of different looks, and the Barbie gameplay can continue for many of them. And I think that's going to be really healthy for the game because it spreads people, and it means that all the other incentives for playing in terms of like achievements that you get that give you dedicated rewards or maybe AP rewards and stuff that you're looking for, any place where you get a specific skin now suddenly means a lot more to Guild Wars 2. So yeah, this point 3, this cosmetics, I think it's going to be a big turning point for the game and a really healthy move for the game as long as the devs play their cards right. I'm sure they must, right? There is another point as well. This is a more minor thing, but I do want to talk about it. We were just over at the vault for a second there. Depending on how the devs implement this, another cool thing can be storage. You might bundle this under convenience. I would actually say it's something different. So right now in the game, if I'm on a PvE character where I have lots and lots and lots of different builds I want to play, I need inventory slots for all of it. In theory, when build templates come in, one of the things to be excited about is you might load your gear into the like build slot, however they're going to do this, into the template. And so the template is like holding all your gear. So that's what? 6 pieces of armor, 4 weapons, potentially 6 trinkets, underwater stuff too at the same time. They've obviously got a lot of stuff to roll through here. But that can really help inventory management. The devs have already done a ton of stuff over this year, and even a bit the year before, to be honest, looking at inventory management with salvage all and all that kind of stuff and consuming through stacks. Once build templates are in theory, we're going to have so much space you won't know what to do with it. It will make those Path of Fire massive bags look completely stupid because it takes them a very long time to fill up. So storage is another little thing in build templates I did want to point out. My next point is this, encouraging experimentation. Now, we talked a little about this earlier. I already mentioned that getting build templates in will probably encourage players to access areas of the class they haven't used before or for a long time, more readily swap over to a flamethrower build, more readily go and key farm or something just because they got the build set up, or do engage in different areas of Guild Wars 2 they did before. But let's take that a bit further and look at things like the economy, right? And look at more specific elements of our builds. So, for example, there's a lot of very cool runes in the game. Let's say Superior Rune of the Ice, okay? This is a pretty cool rune, particularly for Reaper builds. It's got really good chill duration on there. You do extra damage against chilled foes. It's got all kinds of synergies, the Ice Nova there. But people don't really buy it. It's worth 12 silver, 66 copper, because it's kind of frustrating, the idea of really going all in on that idea of a chill build. That then these runes overwrite some maybe more expensive runes and aren't very transferable onto other characters that you might put that armor on later, and so people kind of just don't bother with it. Well, once build templates are in, you will look at stuff like this and you'll experiment with them, or you might go for a Sigil of Luck to get, you know, boon synergy out of some of your traits, maybe if you're a Blighter's Boon Reaper or if you're an Alchemy Engineer or something like that. So the little minutiae of what people actually do in the game, I think, will actually be experimented with more for much more casual players at that point. And that, again, just like I said with the rewards a second ago on the cosmetic side, that's going to only be healthy for the economy and hopefully just make the game all around a little bit more fun. So, yeah, that's going to be a big part of it too for me. And then finally, point 6. Now, the Guild Wars 1 players will be more than familiar with this, but I can't make a video like this without mentioning it. Another thing build templates are just going to be great at the game for is sharing, all right? So, right now, if you want a Guild Wars 2 build, you're probably going to go to like a build website, or you're going to go look at one of my videos and you're going to see the build, and then you're going to pause, or you're going to look at like a huge block of information on a web page, and you're going to try and transcribe that by hand into Guild Wars 2. And you might make mistakes, and it might be frustrating, it might be a little bit tedious, it might take a while. Well, any good build template system, and Guild Wars 1 had this, should have native in-game sharing opportunities. So what you'll instead be able to do is copy-paste like a code straight into a window in-game, and then the build is loaded up straight for you, and it will tell you what items you're missing and what, you know, gear or stat types you're missing, or if it's complete. And there you go, it should be done just immediately, straight like that. I'll be able to provide actual build links in the descriptions of my videos, and it will just be simply a matter of copy pasting. Or when you meet people in game, similar to how I can ping, say, Blurred Frenzy here in chat, I should hopefully be able to ping my entire build like this, and you would just right click it and you could load the build. So that whole element of sharing as well, that's obviously only going to be good, not just for the convenient aspects, which this video has already thoroughly gone over, but in terms of the fact this is an MMO where the idea is to be social and to share things and to engage with one another and communicate, well, having that kind of support in the game only, you know, emboldens those core tenets of what a good MMO should have, right? So that's build templates. That's why people are really excited about it. And yeah, I found myself really, really keen on them. Right now I'm playing a Mesmer, and I really want to set up a good Chrono Phantasma build for open world, and I just wish I could save it so that, you know, it's there for me, and when I inevitably break it to go raid or something, I'm not too frustrated. So I thought I'd talk about it a bit, guys. It's big news that build templates are coming to the game. I hope you enjoyed my little discussion here on it, and if there's any really awesome sides of it I've forgotten about or not mentioned, please feel free to let me know. And until the next one, guys, have a good evening. Take it easy.